Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in. How are we all this evening or this morning or wherever you are in the world? Yes, welcome. If you're watching the YouTube VOD, then thank you very much for swinging by. If you're watching the stream right now, live, speak to me. How are you? Merlin, I see you in chat. How are you? Thank you very much. The hydrate. Very healthy. Okay, so we're going to dive straight in with continuing with the Woodland Realm Diorama. Hey, Pillow, how's it going? As I was kind of looking at this throughout the week, I was thinking I love redwoods as a tree. I do think this is slightly too red for what I want eventually. So I'm going to tint it with a more brown colour, a lighter brown, and see what happens. It might work, it might not. If not, we'll see. We'll see. Merlin, you're knackered. Why are you knackered? I'm good. I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm actually quite tired because I had an event over the weekend which I wanted to chat about. This was a local event down in Cornwall, and this was the Southwest Games Expo run by Roll the Dice, which is a relatively new organisation down here. It's a non-profit organisation looking at kind of analog, how do they describe it? Analog gaming. So getting back to the idea of, you know, gaming in person to help with mental health and kind of after COVID getting back into the social aspect of gaming. And I was invited along to go and have a stall. I took my stall for 3D printing, and I had a really good time. Really good time. They've got a really nice attitude towards running an event, and usually, or not usually, but sometimes when you go to an event, you know, it's a very, very long day for everyone involved. You know, the organisers, the volunteers, the vendors, everyone. So you get towards the end, and sometimes there's everyone just wants to go home. You know, you're absolutely shattered. And yes, everyone was knackered, but there was definitely like still a positive vibe around at the end of the day as people were packing up. Everyone's still laughing and joking, and I don't know whether that was the tiredness kicking in, but I think, yeah, it was a really nice atmosphere. So I'm intrigued to what I can do with them in the future. It's very, very cool. Shiny, hey, how's it going? Right, let's crack on with this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use hardened leather here. I'm going to tint the wood itself. I also have spent the day finalising a piece for Patreon, which is which is live. It's available over on Patreon now, and it's looking at loads of different ways of painting skin tones using Speedpaint and Contrast. You know, layering over and changing the tones subtly to kind of get away with just the here's how you do a light skin tone, here's how you do a dark skin tone. Right, that people aren't like that. There's lots of variations in skin tones. So in the first volume, I've touched on that and started playing around with that, and hopefully people enjoy it and find it useful. I know that, you know, even though I created it, I'm going to use it as a reference myself, because I know down the line I'm going to go, how if I want a skin tone slightly like this, how did I do that? And I can crack open that PDF. So if that interests you at all, then feel free to go over to the Patreon. And for the price of a moderately priced coffee, I guess, I don't know, I don't drink coffee, no idea, but I would have guessed, you can have access to that and all the PDFs that I've done to date. And if you keep subscribing, you'll have everything in the future as well. And be content with the idea that you're helping Me be me, essentially. Oh, that sounds fun, Shiny. That sounds fun. So yes, it was the event was on Saturday, and usually before events I don't sleep very well anyway, or just not a lot, just because I've got 1,000 things running around my head. So I was awake at 4, left at 7:15, and I got back at about 8 o'clock at night. And I didn't stop throughout that time. It was fun. It was legitimately really fun. It was lovely meeting everyone, seeing people I knew, catching up, and then meeting new people, meeting all the other vendors. And the person who organised the whole thing found out that we actually used to go to school together and get the bus together. He used to live in the village that I do. So it was nice to reconnect. Hey Valrath, welcome in. So yeah, I'm just going over with hardened leather, and you can see it's kind of changing the tone into a bit more of a brown than a red, although we've still got that kind of hint of red coming through underneath. This is something I found out while doing the skin tone tutorials, or the guide, is hardened leather is very good because it's quite transparent, and by hardened leather I mean Speedpaint's version of snakebite leather. They're very similar paints. You can use it as a filter because it's very transparent, and it just changes the tone just enough to make it quite effective. It's not a massive change, but it is there. Just be a little bit more careful around the trees in the background because of that blue that we've put in the very first stage that we did. Some of it won't be seen because of the frame, but I just want to make sure I'm relatively careful. The event was also a good opportunity, a kind of final opportunity, I think, for me to test the stall ready for Salute next year. Just need to do a couple more things to it. The banner wasn't sitting quite right, so I need to grab a couple more things for that. But apart from that, I'm pretty happy. So I feel like I'm going into Salute 25 in a really prepared nature. I think the stage after this, when we've done this tint, is going to be going back in with the white and just touching up things like the leaves, the edges of the buildings, because we're going to be going in with quite light colours for the architecture. Velrath, I'm having a good time playing a Chrono Continuum playthrough of the Pokemon franchise. It's basically a tool-assisted run where I can carry on all of the Pokemon I have caught in each generation onto a game from the... Oh, that's cool. So you're essentially doing it as one long Pokemon campaign, I guess, would be a way of saying it. I like it. Very, very cool. I haven't played Pokemon for a while. I got Scarlet and Shield, and I've started both of them, but I've never really continued it. I've dropped them and didn't really pick them back up. I really should. So I was enjoying both of them. But I have to admit, I started playing, and then Power World came out. I was like, yeah, but this is kind of what I really wanted from Pokemon. And then I stopped playing Power World, so the whole thing just kind of stopped. And the only thing I really want to play on the Switch at the moment is the new Stardew Valley update. But Ark Ascended has truly taken over my life right now. Okay, I need a little bit more paint on the palette. Like Sword and Scarlet, the plot twist in Scarlet got me. Ooh, okay, no spoilers, no spoilers. I'm nowhere near kind of that kind of territory, so I would like to go back to it. Okay. Not too worried about this going into every part of the tree. It's fine if it doesn't. I do want that tone coming from underneath as well. I've got to remember this section that I always forget. I can't even remember what I started with on Scarlet. I can't remember what the starters were. I'm not going to start again. It's always tempting when you get to that point where you have no memory of where you got up to. It's always tempted to start again, which was I like to call the Skyrim attitude. But I know that if I just start it again, I just won't get anywhere. I also need to continue with Baldur's Gate because I still haven't finished that. I'm in Act 3 at the moment. And I think I've got to the point where a lot of people did, where because Act 3 is a little bit more open, you kind of get overwhelmed with choice and just stop. Stoked for Path of Exile 2 coming Friday. Ooh! Yes, I forgot about that. I think Path of Exile 2, because I ended up playing one with a friend before lockdown. And we were doing it in person. We had 2 computers, and it was really, really good. And then lockdown happened, and then we kind of fell out of contact, unfortunately. Path of Exile is definitely one of those games that, had it come out when I was kind of teenager, when I was playing a lot of Diablo, a young teenager playing a lot of Diablo, I would have definitely played a lot of Path of Exile, but I think now it's just I've moved on from that kind of game. For now. I'm not even playing Diablo 4. Which saddens me to my very core. Know someone who picked up the $100 supporter pack and is aiming for the $400 pack? What's that for? For Path of Exile? Why? Why is something $400? Why is that a thing? That shouldn't be a thing. Okay. That looks a little bit more tree-like. We are overdue some games, I think. Yes, absolutely. You are not the only person who said that to me. And I need, it's finding time to do everything that I want to at the moment. But we can certainly organise something. Don't know whether it will be before Christmas, but it'll eventually go. Its free-to-play model. Oh, is it not the full release? Star Citizen has a limited pack at $48,000. Is Star Citizen actually finished? Like, is it a full game at this point? I have no idea what that game, at what stage that game is. It's not even finished, and they have packs that are 48,000. What? What is it? What is Star Citizen? Can anyone describe it accurately? Apart from unfinished and overpriced. Because on paper, it looks really, really impressive. But it also seems like there's not actually that much to do. They've raised $750 million for development so far. That has to be enough to actually finish the game. Surely. Surely. Right. I got some white, and I'm just going to go over all of these sections where it's gone on to the architecture. Because then we're going to start putting some tones onto the buildings themselves. And like we said last week, I think I'm going to go for a cream on the buildings and then dry brush it. Dry brush it out up to this kind of light white. And for the roofs, I want to go a light green. So it kind of blends into the treetops. Not yet for Path of Exile 2, but EA is like 80% of the game. The EA is like 80% of the game. Oh, early access, right? Yeah. Isn't like Baldur's Gate 3 early access and only having Act 1. Yeah, but Act 1 of Baldur's Gate was still big. I think Baldur's Gate has really set the bar in regards to gaming, because as far as I can tell, it's pretty much flawless as a game. It was complete. You know, a couple of patches here and there, and they're still putting out patches to improve things. We've got crossplay coming out, photo mode, more subclasses. And I quite like the fact that they've gone, actually, we're not, you know, Larian themselves are not going to do a sequel. They've said, oh, no, we did what we set out to. We'll support it with patches and things like that. But apart from that, jobs are done. Jobs are good. And I kind of respect that. Velreth, they spend all their money making limited edition ships to sell for multiple thousands of dollars is how it looks to me. Yeah, maybe it's one of those things that is never actually finished. Which is a shame. But I guess if people are happy to pay and play like that, then who am I to judge? If it makes you happy, then go nuts. It seems to me that when they kind of announced Star Citizen, it kind of had the same vibe as when they announced Cyberpunk, and even though on Cyberpunk's release it wasn't great, it made a massive comeback because they put the effort in to actually finish it. And it feels like with Star Citizen they just haven't done that step. Oh, it wasn't their choice to do an expansion or sequel? Really? Well, that would be a silly decision by Wizards of the Coast, but it's not like that's the first time they've made a silly decision. Okay, just checking around the edges of things. It's going in a frame, remember, so I don't need to worry too much about the very edges, because you're never going to see it. Yeah, I thought it was the way that Velref's saying, and the fact it was Larian said no. We're slightly going in with lighter touch-ups than the undercoat is at the moment, so just have to be wary of that. Blend it out with a damp brush. Either way, I think I don't think anyone can dispute that Baldur's Gate 3 has been a phenomenal success, and Larian should be incredibly proud of what they've pulled off. Regardless of how you feel about D&D itself and Wizards of the Coast and all that stuff. Baldur's Gate, the game itself, is brilliant. Okay. A little bit round here and then we'll move over here, just double check, but I think we're getting towards the point where we can start throwing some more colour on. I might actually do the leaves first and just give the buildings a little bit more time to dry, although to be fair, by the time I've done these leaves they probably will be dry, so we'll just touch up underneath here. A little bit of blending in. And then we've just got the leaves around the corner. Yeah, I think I'll do the buildings first and then the leaves, and then back to the buildings. Baldur's Gate 3 is top game of all time. I mean, I haven't played it. I haven't played it nearly as much as other people, but I can't think of an improvement that I would do to it, apart from like adding, you know, personal favourite classes and things like that, the Artificer but that kind of thing, you can always add more. But from a game point of view, I can't think of anything in it that I would change. Like fundamentally. Which is rare. That's a rare thing. Hey Vito, how's it going? Okay, just got a bunch of leaves there. A bit of touch up there. And then I think we're good to put some cream on the buildings. Not my type of game, but I'm glad it has its audience. Oh, it definitely has its audience. Yeah, I guess if you're just not that kind of not into RPGs, That's totally fair. It's definitely, you know, a time sink. You can spend a lot of time playing that game. That's why I haven't been in the mind space to play it recently. For a while actually, but I would like to, because my D&D group have all finished it now, and they were verging on spoiler territory. I'm like, okay, I need to finish this game. I need to, so we can all talk about it. No, they killed it. They killed it. I remember joining the Baldur's Gate 3 early access on launch, and from then to release, the game is 100% different. I don't think they've killed it. As in, like, they killed it as in it's good, done well, or badly. Like, I unless role-playing games just aren't your kind of thing, I would struggle to see the point of view where Baldur's Gate is a bad game, to be honest, unless it's just not your kind of cup of tea. But if you like role-playing games, like I can't think of a better example of one. Not to invalidate anyone's opinions, of course, but right. Let's just roughly do a little bit of touch up there. Oh, killed it positive. Right, yeah. Okay, right. Let's put some cream on this. Now, we've got some options here. We've got Pallid Bone, which essentially is like a skeleton horde type thing. Or we've got, wherever it is, Howling Sand, which is a pale yellowish grey. Now, I'm tempted to go away from the brown and go Howling Sand, because I really know what that looks like, and then dry brush it up. Maybe add a little bit of this into the recesses before we do the dry brush. Maybe, I think. Just wish there was a GM mode or a designer, since they are not expanding. I don't know how you would do that though. I don't know how you'd possibly do that. I mean, that's why. Bailey, get on camera. There we go. That's why, to me, the D&D, the tabletop version will always be superior to a video game, because the video game, you have to have a certain amount of rules. You have a world, and you can't go past that, because of that's, the program itself can only go so far. With the tabletop game, the limit is your imagination. That is to say, endless. So to add that aspect into a video game, I don't think it's possible with the technology that we have at the moment. If we have a way of adding in an ever-expanding AI world, then maybe. I never played Neverwinter Nights. I never played the original Baldur's Gates. I played the Dark Alliance games, Dark Alliance 1 and 2, because they were essentially more like Diablo, a bit more action RPG. But I never played Neverwinter Nights, never played the original Baldur's Gates. I tried GM mode in Divinity Original Sin, and that was fine. So how would that work then? How would a GM mode work in a game like that? I'm intrigued. I was also debating with all these accents to do them gold, but I think just doing them this colour, then maybe adding a little bit of darker shade into the recesses and then dry brushing white, I think that'd be enough. I think adding a metallic would be too much. Maybe a metallic green for the roofs, but again, I'm not sold on the idea. You create maps and quests and you control NPCs. Oh, okay. Okay, so it was just virtual D&D then, essentially. Just using the engine of the game. Okay, alright. Yeah, I can see that. Let's put that bit of the roof this colour, and then the other section's green, I think. So I'm kind of trying to keep this on camera as much as I can. Required some sort of voice chat. Yeah, you'd need to have some sort of contact with each other, wouldn't you? Well, I'm sure because of the Baldur's Gate mod community is pretty strong. I can imagine something like that third party will make its appearance at some point in the future. I'd be very surprised if someone isn't already working on something like that. Right, we're kind of just roughly placing in the howling sand at the moment. Just making sure it's not too thick. But that's the general idea. Bits that need touching up because I've missed sections, but they'll probably get picked up by the white dry brush, to be fair. Baldur's Gate 3 assets, it's probably harder to make maps. Yeah, it depends on how flexible they are. It depends if you have the opportunity to work from a very kind of open world, not open world, but a kind of a blank canvas completely, and you can play stuff as and where you want with complete freedom, or you have to work to a more structured setting. There are various dungeon designers out there. Problem is, it requires it all to be incredibly well supported at the developer's end, because otherwise people aren't gonna spend the money to invest large scale. I've seen multiple Kickstarters for this kind of thing over the years. Unfortunately, they usually meet the same fate as each other. So you need a big studio to kind of helm it, and probably to be connected with Wizards. But aren't Wizards doing that? Isn't D&D Beyond doing like a virtual simulator? PCs were cannibals on a quest to visit an orphanage. Oh no. Oh no. Discovered a dark entity who they ate before they got there and wanted an adventure as an after meal treat. What was this in? Was this a homebrewed one? Oh, I had a horrible feeling for a second. I was using my nice Raphael brush, but I'm not. I'm using the old Kalinsky, which is good. A horrible, horrible feeling I messed up then and was doing horrible things to this brush. GM mode of Divinity Original. Oh, okay. Working a virtual tabletop, I've heard it's all right. Yeah. I think after the thing with virtual tabletop is after seeing something like Baldur's Gate 3, people are going to expect basically a more flexible version of Baldur's Gate 3, and I just don't think that's possible. I just don't think that's realistic to expect from any company, because I don't think that technology exists. Not yet. Squeezle! Hey, Squeezle. And B-Stab, thank you very much for the follow there. Anything that comes will be disappointing after. Yeah, that's the downside of Baldur's Gate 3 is when I mentioned, they've set the bar. Every role-playing game is going to have such a hard job following it, because they truly did think of everything in it. And they I think what really helped them is they thought from the player's point of view. Get to a certain point in a game, okay, what would a player realistically, what would they want to do in this situation, regardless of how much it doesn't necessarily fit with what we're trying to do personally. And the best example I can think of that is, the squirrel turning up in Act 1. And I guess mild spoilers if you haven't seen any clips, but I'd be amazed if you hadn't. You have the ability to kick the squirrel. Of course people want to do that in D&D. Of course they want that option. And just the fact that they put that option there tells you how much they thought and respected the players. Thank you very much for the highlight. Hydrate. They're going to microtransaction the tabletop to death. That's the thing. I don't think they're going to. They're not going to kill it. As long as they just keep putting out physical books, D&D won't die. Because I'm not too fussed about D&D 1. I know it's backwards compatible, but I pick up the books and I still want the collection of 5e books, because regardless of whatever happens in the future, I know I will want to use those books as a reference point for my own campaigns, so I can still play D&D. It might not be D&D as written completely in the books, but it will be an adventure that I can enjoy with friends. So from that point of view, D&D will never die, as long as people have free will and their imaginations. D&D, small animal exists. Can I kick it? Almost every time. Yeah. They're on record stating they want physical books to become collector's items and everything to mostly be digital. It won't work though. It just won't work, because not everyone wants to. That would suck if they completely just go away from print media. I would hate that. I would absolutely hate that, and I don't think they would. Because there's enough vocal people in the community with clout that wouldn't want that to happen. I can't imagine that's something that people like Brennan Lee Mulligan and Matt Mercer, who work with Wizards to create content, I can't imagine that's something they would support. And if you lose the favour of big names like that, that would actively hurt the company. Oh, they don't care about the community, but they do care about the money, and the community drives the money. So this kind of neatly rounds back to what I was saying in regards to analog gaming with kind of Roll the Dice's mission, the group that ran the event that I vended at this weekend. It's nice to, especially after, you know, COVID, it's nice to get back into the mindset of meeting up with people and playing games rather than just doing it online. That being said, that's exactly what I'm doing after I stream, is going to play Ark online. But you get what I mean. You get what I mean. They're not that powerful, Brendan, you know, people like Matt Mercer and Brendan Mulligan, but they have influence, and it's not hard to use that influence around the wordings of contracts and things like that, because people aren't stupid. Oh yeah, and you know, this isn't me discounting the digital. You know, I play D&D digitally. That's not me discounting it, but it would be a shame if they stopped creating the books altogether. I would be surprised if they did. Who's that? What we get? We're getting raided by someone. Hey, Chris, how's it going? Thank you very much for the raid. Welcome in. I need to do. Have I got a mod in chat? I don't think I have. Welcome in, raiders. Hang on, let me just do a shout out. See if I can remember how to do it. Chris Frozen. There we go. Has that done it? That hasn't done it. I can't remember how to do it. You know how to. You know what to do. Just click on the thing. Click on. That's the one. That's the one. Exclamation. There we go. Oh my god! Double raid. Double raid. Panicking. Do I put an at? I can't remember. It's been so long since I'm going to do that and see if it happened. No. Frozen. How do you spell frozen? There we go. It's all gone wrong, Chris. It's all gone wrong. It's just click the thing. Just click the thing. I've panicked too much. Who else raided? Someone else raided. I don't know. Something happened. It didn't work. Click on Chris's username. Do it that way. It's the long way round, but it still works. Hi. How's your stream? This is why streamers have mods. This is why people need mods, because the streamers are useless. How's my stream? My stream's going well. I need to breathe. It's going good. Welcome in, raiders. We working on a Wood Elf scenic piece. This is an insert that will be going into a frame at some point. It's actually scaled down. It was originally designed for 28mm for FDM printers, and I printed it on resin. I don't know if you can see on the back. There we go. Printed it in resin. And so it'll have lots of tiny 10mm wood elves all over it. But I just wanted to get the base of the paint done first, or painted base done first. So I'm just using howling flesh, howling sand even, to put that down. Did we get raided twice? I didn't see... I heard the raid noise twice. I think it was just Chris. I think so. Anyway, if you're not following Chris Frozen, please go and do that. Chris, what are you working on? Were you still using the... And I can't remember the official name. The Chris Frozen Sponge 2000. Oh, you work in Celestine. The non-metallic Celestine, yeah? Have you got photos? Would you like to share? I would like to see. I typed a command that popped the sound. Brilliant. I messed up doing a shout out that badly that I tricked my computer to thinking we got raided twice. Brilliant. That. Classic alchemist. Classic alky shenanigans. Alice, thank you very much for the lurk. And thank you very much to everyone who came over with Chris's raid. And didn't laugh too much at me just floundering the concept of streaming. Ooh! Blue sky, eh? Fancy man. Let's go and have a look. Latest pics posted, need to update them now. Okay, let's go and have a look. Boom. Ooh! Oh! That's a bit sexy. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. I love this kind of deep... it's not orange, it's like an umber, I guess. Umber would be the word. Colour. You know what I mean. Yeah. How vibrant are you? Like, how... I would say how edgy, but not in edgy, as in, like, edge highlight. Words are hard, apparently. This is what happens when I get raided. Brain just melts. How harsh are you going to send the highlights? Ooh. Very, very nice. One day I'll have a go at proper non-metallic metal. But it is not this day. Right. A little bit more. She's tidied up a little bit more. The highlights going harsh with little orange reflections. Ooh. Okay. Intriguing. Very intriguing. Yes. Very, very good. I appreciate your artwork. Oh, here you go. Here's a question for you, Chris. A debate that I'm going to reignite. Do you consider miniature painting artwork? Discuss. Chat, discuss. So I know there are some that do, some that don't. You do it on the trim of the tree house? What? Non-metallic metal? No. Are you mental? No, not at all. Not at all. You do. Good. 100%. No discussion to be had. Exactly. That's what I was thinking. But there are people who I respect their opinions on the matter, who are infinitely more talented than I, who don't believe it is art. Which baffles me. I consider what I do to be art, and they are infinitely better. So how they don't consider it art breaks my brain a little bit. They are entitled to be wrong. Exactly. Everyone's entitled to an opinion, and some are wrong. I hereby declare my argument. Okay, what's this? Yeah, exactly. If you say that is not a piece of art, then you are just wrong, aren't you? You can't really dispute that, because who's this? This is Richard Gray. That, oh my god. I keep looking at it, I keep seeing, like, obviously the eyes on the wings are one thing, and then you've got all the freehand veins and stuff on the wings, and then the face, and then the armor, and then the wings down here on the little fly, and oh, that's depressing. Never compare yourself to other artists. I always say that, and then I see something like this, and then I'm like, and then I look back at what I'm painting, I'm like, ah, it's trash, isn't it? Just trash. And yeah, yeah, exactly. You keep looking at it and you're going, ah, it just gets better. It gets better and also worse. It like gets better because it's amazing, and then worse for your self-esteem. It's kind of like that. It's yeah. It's the ultimate slap in the face if they disagree. Yeah, right. Yeah, I've got a totally not print file of a Morty that I want to do at some point. Right. I'm just gonna mop up all the sections that have gone poorly at the back. I'm not too fussed about, you know, various bits at the back because you're just not going to see it with the amount of models that I'm going to be putting on this. And if in doubt, I can just throw a load of rattling grime into the recesses and it will hide it. See, that's my way of painting. You just hide stuff. You're like, ah, you won't see it. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Messy painting. Messy painting. It's a lot of fun. Diorama art. A name from the annals of the history books themselves. It is real. It is real, my friend. How are you? Welcome in. Yes, I am back to streaming. For those of you who don't know, I took time off streaming quite a while to focus on the print shop and focus on other things. But now I kind of feel like I want to be streaming a little bit more. So Tuesday evenings, 6 till 8 on UK time, GMT, GM, whatever it is. That's when I'll be here painting stuff. I don't know whether it's usually going to be my own thing, because at all other times I'm painting stuff for Patreon and tutorials and stuff like that. There's no Space Rock. There's no Redeems actually anymore. I've taken them all off because Redeems, I feel, mess with the VOD, the YouTube VOD. They don't get a lot of views, but it's useful to have them. And I feel like if you've just got a lot of explosive stuff all over the screen all the time, then it ruins the chill vibe that we've got going on here. The chill vibe that was totally ruined by Chris raiding in and me not knowing how to do a shouting. Which is like, I don't know, 60% me, 40% Chris. You don't get away scot-free on that one, mate. Okay, right. While we're waiting for this to dry, I think all of this dirt is going to actually be flock. Redeems take away from the content. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was fine when I was streaming a while ago and my content was very different. It was more of a kind of like, mental, manic, entertaining bit. But now it's just relaxing painting and me chatting utter nonsense. Which at the moment I enjoy. Right, we're gonna dive over to what we're gonna do. I think we're gonna do the roofs, and I want to do them in a kind of green, a like. You right, mate? Please don't throw up on the sofa. Okay. Yellowish green, and then maybe dry brush. So forest sprite. That seems kind of on brand, I think, at the moment. Oh, I want to show you something that I've been working on. Actually, this is a sneak peek. This is an exclusive. This is a sneak peek of a YouTube video that I've got coming up, because I'm going to start playing Spearhead. I'm going to give Spearhead a go. So I'm painting up some ghouls, and this is also a tutorial that's going to be coming out. I'm really happy with how that skin tones come out. I put the wood and the leathers and the beginnings of the metal on today, Absolutely love this model as well. It did have wings, but I took them off and kind of filled them in. It's fine. It's for a gaming piece, but yeah, I'm quite happy with how that's turning out so far. And I've got a week and a half to paint the rest of them. The whole spearhead. The roofs remind me of the Sydney Opera House. Oh yeah, I can kind of see that. Okay, so we're going to take Forest Sprite. Just realised how muted the camera is right now. Hang on. That is very much not accurate to what it should be. Let's saturation up. There we go. That's what it is. That's a lot more accurate. My God, look at those colours. What was that about not being able to nimmer? What, on this? Ah, well, no, that is metallic. That's a metallic speed paint in one coat. That's actually metallic. You realise how small it is next to the paintball. Yeah, no, it's absolutely tiny. Where's the models? So, as an example, it looks like M&M. It'll probably look more like it when it's done. So, when I say 10 mil, I'm talking 10 mil. So it's going to be a whole army. I'm going to fit a whole army on this. It's going to be absolutely tiny. But that's the kind of vibe that we're going for. He's tiny. Little tiddly. Put him there. Alki can do a bit of nimmer anyway. I remember those times. It's just not speedy enough, right? I mean, I can do speed paint nimmer. It's not your fancy spend 12 hours on a shin guard at nimmer. Time for that. Oh, is this too vibrant? I feel like this is too vibrant. Ooh, this is probably the colour I wanted the trees. I might dry brush. We might dry brush to lessen it a little bit. Desaturate. Yeah, we're gonna yeah, we're gonna dry brush that. Looks a bit alive. What, the green? It's pretty potent. It's a bit more potent than I was planning. But all is not lost. I kind of dig it. It's a greenhouse. Awful joke. Awful pun. Dylan, how have you been? Talk to me, tell me. Tell me your story. Okay. Just making sure that nothing's pooling too much in those recesses. From what you said last time, I was imagining more of a verdigris green, or verdigris green. Yeah, no, that's totally what I intended. That is totally what I intended. Hasn't happened. Yeah. To paraphrase James Acaster, I started painting, had a breakdown, bon appetit. Yeah, I think we're going to dry brush the green and then verdigris into it as well. I might actually use verdigris paint, but I don't want to give the idea of metal, I guess. Yeah, it's not a hard one to fix at all. It's part of the process. This is actually the kind of colours that I wanted the leaves, so, you know. It is what it is. Doing really good the last 2 months. Health is increasing rapidly. Very good to hear, Dylan. Very good. That's fantastic. I'm really happy for you, bud. No worries, Vite. Thanks for the lurk. Okay. A little bit underneath here. Got a little bit of green on the cream. Green on the cream. No good. No good. Okay, just one more to go. We've got an hour left. We're halfway through the stream, so I'm hoping I can get the additional shading in on the buildings, and then maybe it might dry in time for me to do the dry brushing white, which would be a good, if I can get the buildings, if we can get the whole piece to the point where it's just kind of edge highlights to be done, then I'll be happy, because I can do those during the week, and then next week we can start on the actual figures, which would be nice, but it will depend on how much I get done of the ghouls, because I did say to Hedgehog that I was going to turn up with a fully painted spearhead, so if it's looking like that's not happening, then we might be doing it painting ghouls next week. So I'd like to have my first ever game of Spearhead with a fully painted force, just because. And then he can't hold it over me. Okay. Catch up on chat. You'll figure something out. You'll figure something out. But I'm glad your situation is improving. Okay. What we're going to do now is, I think all of the cream is pretty much dried. So we're going to get, I think we're going to use pallid bone. No, actually, hang on. This might be too dark. Might be too light, actually. Oh no, that's ideal. That's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. I'm going to swap over to my blending brush. You got 2 kids by now? News Dialam. That's fantastic. Congratulations. No, you only had the one. You only had the one. So that is fantastic news. Congratulations. That's probably overdue congratulations, but you know, it's the thought that counts. I think it was almost, I don't think it was a full year that I wasn't streaming, but it wasn't far off. There was still paint on that. Gross. Oh, where's my blending brush? That one. I would be wise to put some medium down, so I'm not relying on water to blend. although it is going to be dry brushed, so not the end of the world. How did I rate the taste? Wasn't that bad. Wasn't as bad as Contrast can be, or Speedpaints can be. It was no. What's the really horrible one? Black ink. Black ink is nasty. There we go. So that's the kind of shading that we're looking at. Let's pop around the bottom. And these sections in the background, they're going to be pretty much all this colour. After remember this combo actually. What's this? This is Howling Sand shaded by Pallid Bone. It kind of works quite well. We're just letting the Pallid Bone seep into those detailed sections. What ink do you use these days? Ink-wise, I mean, I don't really use inks anymore. I just use the do you mean Speedpaints and Contrast, that kind of thing? I'm mainly focusing on Speedpaint. But if I want something with a bit more staying power, I'll dive over to Contrast. Yeah, that kind of works. Yeah, using the Army Painter Speedpaints 2.0. My kind of go-to at the moment. Still waiting on that fateful sponsorship from Army Painter. I was supposed to have something coming through, but I don't know whatever happened to it. They said they were going to send me something, but I don't know what happened. Yeah, these are the new Army Painter. I haven't tried the Fanatic range. I really want to. Just call them inks. Oh yeah, so yeah. Yeah, they are pretty much inks, aren't they? Need a little bit more Pallid Bone. I really, I don't know if you saw it, Diorama, but I had fun with painting lots of different skin tones for a PDF document for the Patreon. Just kind of experimenting with, you know, what happens with you if you start with this base coat, starting with obscure base coats and then put a flesh tone over it and see what kind of effect you would get. You know, what happens when you start with things like Caribbean Ocean as a base tone and then put Crusader flesh over it, and you get some really, really interesting effects. Especially working with dark skin, actually, you get some really darker skin. Get some fun bits of that. Time to look. No worries. Hear your story of last year next time I come in. No worries, Diorama. Thank you very much for swinging by. Always a pleasure. And take care. Now, I don't mind in general the place looking a little dirty, I guess, because, you know, it's the woodlands. It's wood. I don't want it looking like Lothlorien, Lord of the Rings. because at the end of the day it is the woodland, it's not clean. I was having a look at artwork for this project as inspiration, and it was a real mixture between the hyper clean Lothlorien elves and the quite reminded me a bit more of like Elder Scrolls Wood Elves. That it's more like shacks in trees, that kind of thing. So I kind of want to have a bit of a mixture of the two. So I think when I've just before I start doing the edge highlights, I might go in with something like Rattling Grime or even Garagax, a watered down Garagax sewer, and just wash a load and just kind of blend it into the background, especially into the recesses, create some really dark shadows. All right. Little pool of Speedpaint medium off to the side if I need to blend in anything. I've discovered you get a much nicer effect with that than blending with water, because water you end up with those tide lines. The medium you have a little bit more control. Okay. I'm just using a damp brush and medium to just take off the majority of the shading on the highlights. I mean, it'll be done again when we go back in and dry brush, but it sets it up for that point later on. Spotty! Hey Spotty, how's it going? Welcome in. Spotty, were you still wanting me to do that magic art frame at some point? Or is that kind of been put on the back burner for now? I'm assuming we've got Bran doing a load of stuff. Okay, just take those bits of pooling away. And I'll let the wash flow in to those recesses. Back burner for the moment. No worries, not a problem. Not a problem. Well, you know where I am when you want to pick it up. Okay. Let's just focus on. I'll do the floor in a minute. Let's just focus on this section. Just allowing the paint to flow into those recesses. taking... Oh, paint's, brush is losing bristles. And before the paint dries, we're just using a damp brush to remove that top layer. And if in doubt, just use your finger and thumb. It does exactly the same thing. Okay. Just don't want too much of a pool in those recesses, so we'll just dab in and get rid of the worst of it. I love working with creams and beiges. You can get some really nice subtlety with speed paints and this tone. And the amount of times that when I'm working with these painting these paints, it's like working with the watercolor paints. Yes, they flow into all those spaces, but you could just kind of got to accept it and work with it. It's not the cleanest way of working, but that's kind of the charm. Part of the charm with them. And I've grown to kind of just accept and now kind of enjoy the imperfections in it. You know, if you want an ultra clean studio looking paint job, don't use these paints. If you want something a little different, a little bit more interesting, in my opinion, then you can play with these. This, I don't think I'm going to use my brush at all. I'm just going to take my finger and just start dragging it across. Just gently removing the paint. Like that. And I'm going to go manually and do some harsher edge highlighting later down the line, but this kind of sets it up for that stage. Gives me a template to work from. Not to put too much, so there's always a temptation just to put a little bit too much on the brush and just, you know, slap it over. But with that, you lose control, or you give up some of that control you can have. And I think with working with these kind of paints, you do have to hit that sweet spot of giving up a certain amount of control, but also not giving all of it away. Instead, you're working with the paint instead of fighting it. A little bit too watery on there, and you can see the beginnings of a tide line here, which I don't think I can work away at this point. I think it's too dry, so we may have to manually go in and fix that. later down the line. Yeah, but that's okay. Again, it's a wood elf refuge in the middle of the woods. It's not going to be perfect in my mind. I don't think it should be. Yeah, I might even put a little bit of moss around the recesses of the building, just to kind of emphasize that. So it doesn't matter that we've got these tide lines, because that happens in nature to a degree. Okay. A part of painting like this is you end up with a very wet tissue next to you. You can keep your jokes to yourself. Okay, we've just got this top section to do, and then we've got the two floors. Okay, I need a little bit more paint for the floors. Again, you can see the scale that we're working at. This is at 10mm. This is one of the models that will be on here. Little Glade Guard musician, and he's roughly the size of my thumbnail. Absolutely tiny. And they'll be situated all over the place. I've got a fairy queen that will sit up the top, and archers and spearmen on both of these levels. Have some dryads and treekin that are kind of working their way out of the forest, and hopefully I want to have a stag lord or a lord on great stag kind of riding out this central thing. I think that would look quite cool. So I'm going to work fairly quickly on these big open sections. Create as few bubbles as possible as we work along, and then by the time we've gotten to the end, the other side where we started will just be drying enough that we can start working it. But we don't want to leave that too late, otherwise we'll miss our chance. But again, it's not the end of the world, because we will be dry brushing this as well. That's a little bit too much medium there. I'll just soak that up. But again, there's going to be so many models on this section here that you're not actually going to see that much of the floor. Thank you very much for the follow, much appreciated. And to those of you who are watching, whether that's live or you're watching the VOD, if this kind of style of painting interests you, then I'd encourage you to go and check out my Patreon, where I do a load of PDF tutorials exploring this style of painting. And those generally, not all of them, but generally complement the free videos that are out on my YouTube channel. Now we've got a little bit of a section there that hasn't taken the white paint. So I'm just mixing a little bit of the white paint with the bony matter and just painting over. That section especially, these sections in here, you're not going to see that much because there's going to be lots of models, especially that bit of the floor. I don't think you'd see it at all, considering what I have planned for it. but we'll just put a little bit of paint in there just to be sure. Syncmaster, hello. Speaking of someone on the Patreon, speaking of the Patreon, there's someone on the Patreon. Thank you very much for the support. I think you are on Patreon. Yeah, I remember seeing your name. How you doing, Syncmaster? Okay. We'll just go in and reduce all those pools right at the back because we're working at an angle. So you can see it on camera, all of the paint is flowing to the back, and it just allows me to catch it with a damp brush before it dries and leaves a weird line. Love the skin tone PDF. Hey, awesome! I'm glad. I'm glad that's probably the most work I've put into a PDF so far, just because there were a lot of heads. So I'm glad it's providing useful kind of tool. It's definitely going to be something that I go back to on various projects. Going, oh, how did I do that specific tone? And I just have it. It's not a tricky one to follow at all. It's literally paint white, step 1 this, step 2 this. There's no blending. It's just thoughtful use of layering, essentially. Right, so I'm not going to do the leaves now. What I will do is throw in a darker green. I'm afraid if I send it too dark green, then it's not going to work. I think it needs to go lighter green. I'll tell you what, actually. Maybe we do this and just go straight in with Nihilak, or however you say that, oxide, the oxide technical. And just see what that looks like. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Let's see. And then we dry brush over it. Okay. Interesting. It's mixing with the brown that isn't quite dry yet, but that's not a bad thing necessarily. That's the tone I was looking for, actually. That's the kind of tone. Syncmaster saves me having to do the work of finding the right combo. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was hoping. You know, if I can just show you pictures of, like, here's the example. Pick a skin tone that suits your project, and here are the 2 paints. I think there's only one of the faces on there, one of the skin tones, that uses more than 2 stages. Most of it is just 2 stages, but I think there's one that takes 4, but there's a bit of dry brushing. And 2 of the 4 are exactly the same colour. You're just painting it, dry brushing it, and then painting it the same colour. Just to get a little bit more variation. That is actually precisely what I was after. And I don't mind the patchiness because it kind of works on the roofs. And if we put a little bit of a dry brush over that. Interesting, okay. As long as there's no awkward deep pools anywhere. after this stage, I might go in, just retouch up any of the leaves that need it, and then we might just put some paint on the leaves, because I don't think the creams will have dried enough on the buildings, so we'll need something else to do, and I think that'll be a perfect opportunity to go and hit the leaves while everything else is drying. Nice. Let's kind of mop up some of the brighter parts. It's actually drying a little transparently, so yeah, I like that. And then we'll put some shading into the recesses with rattling grime, tone it down a little bit, make it less clean. Yeah, okay, alright. That kind of works. Right, what did I say I was just going to do? Touch up with white on the leaves. And then paint the leaves. And those I want quite a dark green. So I think we'll paint them in two tones. We'll paint them one a lighter green, and then go over with maybe even absolution green, that deep green, that totally not Dark Angels green. Yeah, I think we'll do that. So, white paint. Just to touch up the leaves that need it. And I reckon, yeah, next week we'll either be starting work on the miniatures themselves, or on the wood elves themselves, or we will be working on the... Oh, I'm painting green on green. Like, I'm painting green already. Hang on, I'll just get the ones that have the brown on them. But we might just be able to go straight in. Yeah. Or I'll be working on the ghouls. And depending on how the week goes, it's more likely to be the ghouls because I need them painted. Okay, so, oh, hang on, I haven't done the underside of that. Let's just do that quickly. Okay. Okay, now we've got to be careful with this because if it runs, it's going to run down there, and I don't want it to run down there. So we'll just get rid of all that pooling now. Okay. Sync Master. My problem is that I don't paint enough to get to know what paints give what shade, and seeing pics with the list of paints and steps taken is really handy. Ideal. That's exactly what I was hoping for. So I'm glad that kind of content really helps. I really enjoyed making it as well. It's teaching essentially, and I enjoy teaching. So yeah, it's really nice to. It's good to know that the work is being used in the manner that I intended for. Right, forest sprite we'll get rid of. I reckon if we go greyish green camo cloak first on all the leaves, and then when that's dry, go over with a second coat of absolution green. Dialan, where are you teaching? Patreon? Yes, I've started up a Patreon. Basically, I'm trying to push as much over there because at some point I would like to go full-time Patreon and content creation. That's kind of what I want. So that's what I'm aiming for. And I couldn't find anyone who is specifically doing speed paints, like Speedpaints Contrast and this style of painting, and making it accessible. So that's the idea, is to create PDF guides that complement the free videos over on YouTube. Sometimes it will just be like, I'm painting this model. Here's the video of me painting this model, and here is the guide of like step by step with screenshots and just a little description. So yeah, and I could, yeah, like you said, it's not too common, this style, but it's accessible for people who are new to the hobby or something, or people want to try something a little different. So yeah, I thought we'd give it a go, and hopefully there'll be enough people who take interest to make it, you know, financially viable. And you know, at this point, it's looking like it might be in the future. It started strong, and it's gone quicker than I thought it would. So all things are positive, he says, question mark. I like it as well, but I mix my own inks and washes, what makes it a bit harder to follow it. Yeah, I think if you mix it, if you're mixing your own stuff, you know, and you know that I absolutely love your stuff, but to someone who is literally just kind of buying paints off the shelves, that's kind of what I want. I want, like, you to paint this model like I have done. You need this paints that you get from the store. You don't need to mix them. You might need to put one on top of the other at some point, maybe thin it a little bit, but you don't have to worry about kind of mixing too much, and getting the right hues and tones and everything like that. It's just put this paint on top of this paint and it gives you this result. Is it going to win you any competitions? No. Is it going to get models painted? Yes. And hopefully you'll feel happy about the result. So yeah, I think yeah, we'll do this, and then we'll put a shading coat over that. And it's tempting to, you know, where all these leaves are is actually go and get some flock and some foliage, and rather than make them painted leaves, make them, you know, flocked leaves, and just use them as a basis. But I don't know whether that will look right. So yeah, that's the plan with the Patreon, is kind of push it to the point where it's my job. That would be the kind of dream, because of various things in the future changing. I kind of want to move more into the full-time art side of things. And work kind of purely digitally, as in, like, you know, on the internet rather than shipping stuff. Because it could get quite interesting shipping stuff around the world in the next, well, it already has, but next year it could get a little painful. How's family? Family's good. Yeah. Mum's busy with her own research work, and Bailey was fast asleep, and I said his name and now he woke up. Yeah, I'm really happy with that oxide, actually, over the green. I like the texture it's given. And if I put some rattling grime as a shade, I think that will look quite nice. Be very careful not to touch this section, because these are quite, that's very weak. That's a very, very thin piece of resin there. Fortunately, because I've printed it in ABS resin, it's got a little bit of flex to it, because if it was normal resin, that would have died a long time ago. Thailand, but mix pigment G36 with some Y110 and add 1 to 20 part propylene glycol mix in 320 is really accessible for new painters, right? I'd say that you would be challenging the accessibility of the art form. I think would be the nicest way of saying that. But yeah, it's that for more experienced artists, that's perfect. But for people who are just, you know, they've never painted a model before in their life, or they're fairly new to the whole hobby, that's kind of where my content is predominantly aimed. But it's, you know, it's for anyone who kind of wants to have a go at this style of painting, or, you know, try something new. The remaining cat tiger has decided that I need a shadow for everything. Are you being followed, eh? Yeah, my point exactly, Spottiest. Okay, I'm not worried about painting this side because this is going to be flat up against a frame. I need to figure out what I'm going to do with the frame. I'm not sure. It'd be quite nice. I mean, I'm not a woodworker in any sense of the word, but it would be quite nice to have like a wooden frame for this and stain it. Yeah. Yes, maybe. Right, what's time? We've got 15 minutes left, so what have we got time to do on this? That is... I don't want to dry brush anything because not everything is dry enough to do that. What can we do? Oh, maybe we can dry brush actually. Maybe we can. Do I want to do that now? Yeah. Let's finish up with some dry brushing. Let's keep that. $15 hours. No. Gone are the days of the stupidly long streams. No. Alright, we're going to use a relatively small dry brush, little makeup brush, which I probably need to get some more because there's paint right at the bottom of that. And we'll get rid of most of that. Use the skin to kind of get a good consistency, make sure that we're not creating any lines. I think we're good. So we're going to paint flat. And take it really slowly because I don't want to overdo this. I think I'd rather dry brush this rather than edge highlight, because I think it'll look a bit more natural if we dry brush comparatively. Slowly building that up. Yeah, that's what I'm at. At the end, you might paint his beard green. Ah, memories. Do we all remember when I painted my beard green? That was for, well, I think that was for like 300 follows. Was that 300? Seems like an age ago. Yeah, that's kind of what I've got to be really careful around that bit. Really, ooh, God, don't drop it. Got to do downward strokes, so if I go side to side, it's going to damage that. Go. I'm gonna have to go and buy some I'm gonna need some new tweezers to put the models in place on this. Make sure I get the doorways, because the doorways are quite key on this. Cool. I think that's... Yeah. I'm pretty happy with that. So, what's time? Okay, we've got time. Oh god, that took no time at all. So, what we're going to do is, in the recesses of the roof, we're going to take Rattling Grime, wherever it is, there. And I've got a little bit of medium left over. Just going to add a little bit of... It's not necessarily black lining, but a little deep shade into that recess. Let's see if it works. See if it looks okay. It might not work. Yeah. It's maybe a little too dark actually. It does look a little bit too much like black lining. So maybe it's just a really... Okay, it works if it's thinned down. So we'll do that. Ooh. A little bit of something from a previous paint job, I think. Tiniest amount of shading for this. Yeah, you could just put yellow, but it might be the wrong yellow. It's not the names, it's the mixing. You know, if you're using like 10 to this plot, 10:3 ratio of this paint to this paint, it can get quite intimidating for new painters. This isn't to say that, you know, there's not a place for that kind of tutorial. There absolutely is, and Diorama's art is fantastic. There we go. Right, I think I've got it. There you go. You can see the kind of before and after. This is the before, this is the after. And it just gives a little bit more shade into that recess. Yeah, if it works for you, if it's for you, that's great. Oh, Rattling Grime has so many applications. I love this paint. Love this paint so much. almost don't need the medium. It just helps it flow a little nicely. A little nicer, sorry. Awful English. Go. Yeah, I'm not too worried about painting the backs of these because you're not going to see them. There's no way that you can see those when the frame's on. I'm just going to almost stipple some rattling grime into the back here for a different kind of vibe. I quite like the idea of these roofs are quite textured in their style. Okay. Cool. All right. I think I'm going to leave it there because the next logical stage, I don't know what the next logical stage is actually, is probably the green on the leaves, and I don't have enough time, and it hasn't, well, I do have enough time, but it hasn't quite dried enough. And then after that, maybe a little bit of edge highlighting, and then it's onto the pieces themselves. But that's kind of the overall idea. If you haven't seen the pieces themselves, that's the example. I've got tiny little 10mm wood elf, roughly the same size, if not a little bit smaller than my thumbnail, and all of those will be pouring out and defending their woodland realm. Time to bully Brannigan. Yes, I think it is that time. So, yeah, let's call it there, I think. And we'll go and raid into Brannigan's brushes. So thank you very much to everyone who has swung by today. If you're watching the VOD, then I appreciate you taking the time out. I hope you found it relaxing and it wasn't too chaotic. If you'd like to support the channel, then please swing over to Patreon. This is the best way of doing that. And you also get access to all my PDF files and documents and things like that to complement the work that I've done here and on YouTube as well. So if this style of painting interests you, then check it out. Check it out over there, and that kind of support really does. I cannot stress enough how much that kind of helps. The Patreon has saved my bacon quite a lot in the last month or so. So we're going to go and raid into Brannigan's brushes. If you're not following Brannigan's brushes, then make sure you do that. I'm just going to stop the stream, stop the recording for the VOD. So bye VOD. I'll see you soon.